Hello, welcome everybody to the Petty Crew Radio Show. I'm your boy Boss Hall. As usual, we have a great show lined up for you today. But before we get this party started, let me introduce my co-host all the way from San Antonio, Texas. What's good, Diamond?
Hey, it's Diamond, and I'm excited to be back. It seems like I've been gone forever.
Yes, it's been a month. Yeah, it's been
Definitely has. I mean,
yeah,
April was my birthday, so I really don't count that because sometimes I celebrate a little too much. So, when we
right.
in April, I'm a little suspect.
Yeah, already. Again, thank everybody for tuning in to today's show. We have a great show lined up for you guys today. Listen, we're gonna get into Texas lawmakers okay carrying handguns without a license. How do you guys feel about that? Again, Texas is one of I believe 20 some states who now or will be able to carry handguns without a license. Also, we're gonna jump into a story of a gentleman in Lubbock, Texas. He left a bad review on the company's page, and he ended up being sued. We also go jump into Simone Biles. If you know her, she is the most decorated uh, gymnast, U.S. and worldwide. You know, she's pulling off stunts and these routines that no woman has dared to do. However, with her being as a creative and powerful as she is as an athlete, she's also being penalized for these new routines that women wouldn't have never thought about doing. So let's go and jump into today's show again. Thank everybody for tuning in to today's show. Please make sure you like. Please make sure you share. Again, we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitter. So shout out to everybody who's watching us on those streaming platforms. So let's jump right into it again. If you are in Texas in general, you are aware that Greg Abbott is on his way to signing into law a bill that will allow people over 21, men and women over the age of 21, to carry a handgun and no longer need a license to permit. Currently, right now, if you want to carry a handgun, concealed or not concealed, you have to go through training as well as paying for a license to carry, and that's the way it is right now. But again, that is going to change very soon because it's on its way to Greg Abbott's desk, and he has already said he will sign into law. And again, there's always oppositions to everything. You have gun groups, you have police agencies who say that in doing so and passing this new law, we are going to be opening up a can of worms. And so, with that being said, Diamond, talk to me. What are your thoughts about Texans no longer being able to need a handgun license to carry guns?
Honestly, I like the law of needing the license to carry a gun just to ensure that you get the safety and the practice in that you need in order to shoot. Even though honestly, whether it's a law or not, if a person wants to get their hands on a gun, they're gonna get their hands on a gun and they're gonna shoot. I definitely think this new law is a money grab because I think it's gonna make guns go up more because now they're in a everybody's gonna be running to buy one. Bullets are gonna go up more, as we've already seen with just the pandemic. The price of bullets have went up so much. So I think in the initial sense of the reason they're doing it, of course, I think it's a money grab. I really like I said, I like the fact that you do need a license to carry a concealed handgun. And also, to be honest with you, it keeps the prices down a little bit when you have to have that license when you're talking about the purchase of your actual handguns and the purchase of bullets and everything. However, this law will also keep a lot of people from going to jail that don't have license that tend to drive around with guns in their cars anyway, which honestly you should do. If that's what you're going to do, you should do it the right way, which means you should be legal. You should go ahead and do the class. You should take the necessary precautions and just obey the law. But again, like I said, at the end of the day, I look at it as a money grab and another one of those crazy things that Governor Abbott is doing in the state of Texas. I cannot wait to November 2020 because I will definitely be out there campaigning for whoever is running against him. I'm letting y'all know now. I'm gonna be on the phone. I'm gonna be one of them people getting on your nerves, calling your phone, asking have you voted because he's just out of control.
Okay, so again, if you're watching, we're talking about Governor Greg Abbott, who is on his way to signing into law a bill that will allow Texans ages 21 and older the ability and right to carry a gun without a license. Right now, if you didn't know, in the state of Texas, now you can already carry a um, rifle without a hand, without a license. You can also ride around in your car with your handgun. It's just when we're talking about in open spaces, we're talking about into businesses, etc. Right now, depending on that business, is either concealed or not concealed. And again, a lot of the opponents who are against it go on to say about this is saying that some supporters of the bill say it would enable Texans to better defend themselves in public while abolishing unnecessary impediments to the constitutional right to bear arms. Once signed into law, Texas will join nearly 2 dozen other states that allow some form of unregulated carry of handguns. And again, what are your thoughts about that? As someone who has guns, I'm not sure, Diamond, if your family has guns or not, but I
Yeah,
know I do.
I
I
have.
do believe that you should get trained. I think as an African Americans, I believe, like I said earlier this week, man, don't fall for the game because how it's going to work is that police officers will also have the right to question you. Um, in the way this law is created, a police officer can find whatever reason to confiscate your gun, and that's the catch. If you're African American and you're rolling around, um, it already take police officers to have some suspicions about you, and let alone now take your gun. And again, I would advise you guys who are thinking about skipping the whole process, meaning paying for training, paying for the license. Go on and do it. What I found out is, and what I did know, I never paid attention that if you are a concealed handgun licensed carrier, uh, it's tied to your registration. So if you get pulled over for whatever reason, police officer once he runs your plates, I
Right.
already that you have a license to carry a gun. And from what I'm being told is that a lot of police officers approach you differently, knowing that you are a concealed handgun license carrier. And I don't mean in a negative way, but in a positive way, because now their mindset is this can't be a bad guy. He can't be too bad because you got to pretty much have a squeaky clean background in order to carry or to get that license anyway. And so, again, there are some added benefits to having that license anyway. And I just don't think we should be, um, you know, just because Greg Abbott is going to sign to the law, give you the okay again, you still got to walk a little bit different. You got to remember you are a person of color. You are already going to be approached differently already. You don't want to make it no more difficult for police officers to uh, find a reason to not only shoot but take your gun. Um, One of the guys over Target Masters, that is a handgun shop in Garland, Texas. He says at Target Masters in Garland, Texas, customer Randy Johnson expressed reservations telling CBS Dallas, I don't want to look at every single person I come across as a potential threat. That's not the world I want to live in. So I don't believe in it. And if something does happen, if five people pull out guns, the police don't know who's the good guy or who's the bad guy. I agree with that. Just think about it. We really done turned into the wild, wild west.
You're right.
September the first hit. Just think about it. Everybody and their mama will be able to walk around with a gun. Also, there are no background checks. Now, outside of you purchase guns, if you're going through a dealer, they go naturally run, they little background checks. But this law does not blanket men and women from having to at least get a background check, prior to getting a handgun license. Also, there are provisions in there for people who have, they made it stiffer for folks who get caught with guns who are felons. If you are have a history of violence, you won't be able to purchase a gun. But the question is how will they know that? You see what I'm saying? I mean, how would they know outside of what a concealed handgun, um, seller does? And again, if you purchase a gun, you already got to go through a somewhat of a background check, federal wise. But on the state level, how will Texas combat that? Um, So I guess since you said you have guns, Diamond, I mean, do you carry it around? Do you have a license? I mean, where are you at?
Okay, so it's funny you made the comment. Last week I was actually at the gun range, and I've been taking classes, just working on my distance shot and everything. So
Hmm.
I'm at the point where I do have and work finna take my test to get my license to be a concealed handgun. To be a carrier. Before I never honestly was interested in it, but for whatever reason lately I've been interested, and because I've been interested, I wanted to make sure that I was safe in my decision making process as well in choosing the right handgun that was going to work for me. So honestly, the last couple of months, a few months, I've been taking classes. I go to the gun range, just shoot. I have a private trainer that I work with as well, and we actually had this conversation. We're just talking, and the thing you just said about how the police look at you differently. For one, he actually used to be a trainer for the police as well as a veteran, and that was one of the things he said because he was a trainer at the police academy here in San Antonio. And that was one of the things that he brought is like he was encouraging people, even if the law passes, that he encouraged you to go ahead and still get your concealed handguns license because it's on your identification, and that the police do look at you differently because they look at you as more as a less of a threat, more as an upright citizen that you went through the process to get this done. Not only that, it also stops you when you do start buying, if you buy multiple weapons or whatever, because that's on your license, your background. You don't have to go through a extenuating background check as when you don't have it on your license and the things that they do. So I do carry mine. Like I said, I'm in the process of actually my test is next week when I'm scheduled to take my test. So I definitely believe whether they pass it or not, I think everybody should still go through the process of being a concealed handgun carrier. Like you say, they do approach you differently, and especially being an African American, is we're still dealing with this racist systematic system that we have. So I think any precautions that we can take that gives us a little edge, just a little bit, that's what we need to do. It's sad that we have to do it, but in this particular situation where we are, it's better to be safe than sorry. So
Right.
I definitely feel like that people should still go ahead and do the
Yeah,
class
like
just to go ahead and have that. And I'm like you. I don't want anybody to just be able to pick up a gun and decide they want to shoot. You don't know how to handle the gun. You don't even know how to load bullets. You don't even know what type of gun you're using. So where is the safety in that? How are we benefiting? And have you even been anywhere where you just took some shots and just practiced so that because if you've never shot a gun before, that first shot is something else, if you've never experienced it. So you have to have not only have your aim, but you got to be ready for that kickback that's coming back and be able to
right,
govern yourself accordingly for that. And if you haven't taken the time to learn, then I don't feel like you need to have those weapons. Like I said, I'm in the process. I didn't just go pick up one gun. I actually shoot all of them, to figure out, okay, which ones. I even do the rifles. And I've done a rifle before just because I'm a country girl at heart. And, hanging with your granddad, going hunting and stuff like
Right.
that. But I never was like into the actual handguns or shooting a 9 or 38, and nor did I even know the difference between them or how to read them. And now I do know. Now I know the difference in what bullets were best, which one is going, do what it needs to do. So this is all the things I learned by taking that extra time to be like, okay, if I'm about to do this, let me do it the correct way. Let me be safe with it. Not only do I want to protect myself and my family, but I don't want to just be a danger to society either. I need to know how to check, how to clean it, and understand. I always hear people talk about gun jams and all of that. Well, guess what? Now I understand how that happens. But had I not taken the time to go do these classes, not just, like go to the gun range and just start shooting, I've been to classes where I'm actually learning the process, learning how to be safe and all of this before I even pick up the handgun to start using it. So I definitely think that's something that everybody should take into consideration before just jumping up and buying a handgun. And honestly, that's what I see a lot of our young people doing is they just go to the store and buy one and do the background check, but they haven't went anywhere to actually even practice using it. And that's kind of scary because if you haven't gotten that first shot and you are in that life or death situation, you don't know your reaction. You don't know your think process. And we know when you're in those situations, you're not going to act at 100. So the closest I can get to 100 by having practice, that's the better chances I have of being in a safe environment if I'm ever caught up in that type of situation.
Right. I mean, and again, the main thing is learning that um, it's also safety, like you said, that go along with training and being properly trained. Again, a lot of folks, and I see it on my social media page, when they at the gun range, it's a joke. You don't go to the gun range to have fun. I mean, this is not bowling. You're going to the gun range to be able to practice, to aim and shoot whenever necessary. Um, and I'm not saying, you know, be super serious, when you go in there, your mind is set on, I'm just defending myself. I'm not saying that when you at the gun range. What I'm saying is training and proper training teaches you to look at carrying a gun totally different. Um, I have a guy, his name is Chris Card. He he's a former federal officer. He currently trains the SWAT, and he also teaches classes. You can go to him, to shoot out with the class. And so, that's something that I do whenever I'm able to do that. Because again, if there's no point in having guns if you're not going to shoot it. And
Right.
like we're saying is with this law, a lot of people who are unequipped, who are not qualified, who don't understand that it's just not about carrying a gun. Because what's going to happen is you're going to enable people who already got that ego complex. You get what I'm saying? That big badness that's going to come out with them with now knowing that you can carry something that has the power to take a life in their hands. Let's not get it twisted, carrying a gun around, and I learned this from Chris. He said as an officer, he's been on the service for 15 years now. He said he's fired his gun maybe twice. Not kill nobody. We're talking about pulling the gun. Because at all costs, it's really not about having a gun to shoot. It's
Right.
there at the last resort. In other words, he always teaches that, if you got to move around, move around. If you got to give a warning, hey, I'm going to give you this warning. The point is that your gun is the last resort. When all else fails, when it becomes really life and death, not just carrying a gun and I get into an altercation and so I'm going to shoot you because I have the right to carry a gun. No, that comes with a lot of legal issues that
Right.
put in this bill. And so, honestly, if you don't have the money to pay when you do decide to discharge your gun for whatever reason, the truth is you really shouldn't carry a gun around because it's going to come with a cost. At the end
Yes.
of the what we see on TV is one thing, but in real life, what you don't know is, and I'm going to give you an example of this, and we're going to leave. Remember, because the story talks about how, you know, with the rise of mass shootings, El Paso, remember the guy who walked up in the church and he
Right.
shot somebody before one of the deacons or whoever shot him. They cite that as reasons for now passing this law. But here's what they don't tell you. So that gentleman who killed that white guy, he walked into the church, he was sitting in the back. Uh, he ended up shooting the guy. But what they don't tell you is that guy who prevented further death and accident, he still had to defend himself. It still came with a legal cause with shooting that gentleman. You get what I'm saying? It
Right.
wasn't just, oh, I shot him, I got to lay down and go to sleep. He still had to, um, pay to make sure that he was protected. And so again, it still comes with a cost. And so again, man, um, don't take this law lightly. Make sure you read over it. There's still some things that we're not getting into just because you can carry it. You still got businesses who will still be able to say, hey, this is not the place for you to carry a gun. And so again, it's just about knowing the law. With that being said, man, we're gonna keep it moving since we're on everything Texas right now. And speaking of Texas, if you guys hadn't seen the news, and I'm not sure if it was in the news or not, but over this past week, a gentleman out of Lubbock, Texas, uh, who did business with a company. Apparently, he did not like the service in which it was rendered. In a nutshell, left a comment. I'm not sure if it was on the Facebook page or what social media page. It was some social media page. In any case, that business turned around and sued him for the negative comment. Now, at first, he didn't take it seriously, and we're gonna get into what he said, but ultimately, he lost in court. And we're gonna jump into it. So let me give you guys a brief breakdown of what happened. It says a Lubbock, Texas man decided to leave a negative review of an Irish company he worked with online. Once the company read it, they decided to take legal action. He goes on to say, never did I think I could personally be held accountable for a review of a business. We've all done it. My last review was of a seafood place in Mississippi. If you go to Google Maps, and I forgot the name of the company, I left a nasty review because not only was the food not worth what I paid, I end up finding out that they charged me twice on my bank statement. I'm one of those guys after the weekend when I spend money, I go through my bank statements and lo and behold, I see I was double charged. Now I got a receipt for the food that I bought, but then I caught they charged me again for something that I don't even know what the hell they charged me for, but it was like an additional 45, $50. So in any case, we've all left reviews, and so this guy didn't think nothing about it. He goes on to say, in 2015, Cattleman hired the company to help grow his online business. He said after working with the company, Cattleman discovered they had made errors that would cost him 8,000. It goes on to say, after failing to deal with the issue properly, Castleman decided to post a negative review of the company online. He goes on to say, I just say, hey, as a customer, here is what I experienced with this, said Castleman. For a lot of people, 8,000 would sink them, as it did with this business. He says the next thing he knew, the company filed a lawsuit against him. It goes on to say, over leaving a review of a non-U.S. company of a non-U.S. citizen for a service that he again paid for. The story goes on to say, basically in a nutshell, he would never got a um, court date. So fast forward, he ended up losing the case by default. And if you guys don't know what default means, that means you don't show up to court and the other side show up, the judge will rule in the favor of the person who brought up the lawsuit. And here we are in this situation. I know somebody's like, well, why the hell are you talking about this? Well, for a couple of reasons. Well, first and foremost, um, you need to pay attention. Now, I've been to court several times. I hate to say nothing criminal, but I've been to court. And one thing I know that comes with a lawsuit eventually is a court date. So I'm still lost as to how this gentleman never knew he had a court date. And I'm looking at your face, Diamond. Holla at me. What's going on? What are your thoughts?
I feel the same way. I'm over here trying to figure that, like, how did he not know he had a court date? But then I can see it because if you're one of those people that you get a lot of junk mail, it's
Uh-huh.
easy to throw that in the trash with the junk mail or whatever. So I can see that part, but I just think the whole story within itself is like, how you gonna sue somebody for leaving a negative review when every time you turn around you have the opportunity? But it made me think about a situation because I left a negative review with something I don't even remember what it was, but something I ordered from Amazon. Oh, I know what it was. It was in the height of the pandemic when we were going back to work, and the shields you ordered to get to for your desk and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I was getting shields for my students and myself because the district was not going to provide them. And so the company that kept telling me it was coming. Needless to say, it's like months later. School has already started, and I still don't have them. So at that point, I'm like, hey, give me my money back. Well, they started going back and forth with me, and I'm like, at this point, we shouldn't even have this. I don't have the product. You should just go ahead and refund my money. But they want to keep saying, but it's on the way, it's on the way. Well, anyway, I left a nasty review. So then they started telling me if I remove the review, they'll give me back my money. And I was like, how about you give me back my money and I'll think about removing my
Right.
review. And to see how much money like he lost in looking at $60,000 in houses being seized, that's on the excessive side. Even I get the whole, the judge rules with default and all of that. I still felt like that whole process was excessive to that he lost so much behind him leaving a review when we're supposed to be able and allowed to leave reviews. And if you did a good job, you wouldn't have to worry about a negative review. But I mean, come on, you take surveys about reviews, you do the 3 star, 5 stars, and that's how even
Right.
we shop. Look and see, okay, well, what's the review on this product before I get it? What is everyone saying? So that seems to be a way of life. So I'm still just trying to figure out how did he end up going to court behind the review that he left.
Well, the story says that, they asked him to remove it and that he owed them from the article says the company asked Coleman to take down the review, claiming he owed them over 300,000 um, for defamation. And again, I'm still confused as to last time I checked, we have the right to leave reviews. Uh,
Right.
if I have bad service, I'm going to leave a bad review. I told you my last review was from a restaurant in Jackson, Mississippi. Um, and then what's so crazy is that they were awarded $60,000 from this whole ordeal. And my question is who's at fault? Is it him at fault for not getting with the court, or is it the court fault that he was never notified that he had a court in which he defaulted on? Now the story goes on to say that he will have a different day in court, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
The article goes on to say that he's waiting now um, for a new court date, to appeal this actual ruling. And again, thank everybody for tuning in. Uh, First part of the show, we was just finished talking about Texas and its passing of um, Texas having the right to carry guns, handguns, without any permits. And right now, we're talking about the gentleman who was up in Lubbock, Texas, who had a business. He was doing business with a company. He did not like the service once he found out that he was losing money to the tune of $8,000. He left a bad review. They asked him to take it down. He then says no. The company goes to court and they win by default. And so again, the question is who to blame, and also what can we take from this, man? Listen, if you ever sued, if nothing else, you need to make sure you show up to a court date, point blank and simple.
Definitely.
Because if he would have went to court, more than likely he would have won his case. And because he didn't show up to court, again, the question is who's at fault? Is it the court at fault or is he at fault? I'm asking the question, Diamond. Which one do you believe uh, is at fault?
Ooh, that's a good question. I kind of look at it both ways. For one, he didn't get the notification, but I don't know, did they not send one or did they send it and he just didn't see it, got shuffled through the mail or what? But even if he wasn't there, I still feel like the court's ruling and the amount that they ruled was extremely excessive. Like, but again, I'm thinking they didn't have both sides of the story. So they got this one company that's suing them that's saying, well, he owed this much money, even though they never talked about the money until he left the bad comment. So now I leave a bad comment, all of a sudden I owe you money. But because he didn't go to court, then it's only a one-sided story. So you're
Right.
only going to rule on the side that you hear. So, I mean, it's kind of iffy because I don't know as far as was he not notified or did he overlook the notification? And I know he kind of said he didn't know he had to go to court, but that's too broad for me because I can easily say I didn't know something, but why did I not know it? Was it because I didn't read it or because I didn't receive it? So I'm kind of like up in the air on that end. I don't know who's at fault because I don't know why he didn't show up. Was it that you didn't see it or read it, or was it like never sent to you?
Well, he does go on to say, he never received the court date. And again, I don't show up to court without an attorney, so I don't know. But what I do know from my court experiences is that my attorney is going to notify me, hey, you got a court date on XYZ. That's their job to make sure, they know when court dates are. Um, and so again, and I don't know how it works in Lubbock, Texas, but again, that's the question at the end of the day. Who's at fault? Is it the gentleman's fault that he didn't know? Or is it the court fault that they never notified him? Because he says that nobody never told him of a court date. Um, and I can understand that because a business more than likely used attorneys to get to court. It probably wasn't the owner who, went to court. They probably paid for an attorney. Now, what he should have done is he should have gotten an attorney, and then he wouldn't have been in this issue in the first place. Another thing that I've learned: going into court alone versus an attorney, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lose. It goes back to that story we were talking about at the beginning of the show, where the difference between having a concealed handgun license and not having one, police officers look at you totally different. And it's no different in a court situation. You don't show up to court without a representative, and then you're trying to go against a attorney who knows that specific law. You're gonna lose every time. And what it sounds like is that in this situation, he lost because he was not represented. Because I'm sure hell, a basic attorney would have argued that he had every right to leave a negative comment. Because let's think about what precedents this is sending. With them suing him, now that opens the doors, for instance, the company that I just left a negative statement to sue me. You follow what I'm
Right.
saying? I mean, because now that's basically what was being said. Because shit, best believe I know Chase was on their ass behind my little hot 40 some bucks. I'm just keeping it 100. I ain't heard
Right.
nothing from them. So, again, you got to be careful. Let this be a lesson to anybody who's faced in a situation of any lawsuit. Make sure you are well represented. If you don't know, now you know. Get an attorney. It wouldn't cost them much of nothing to make sure that they were properly represented at the end of the day. Now this gentleman has learned the hard way about not being represented because again, he knew he was being sued. So the question again also is why didn't you not get an attorney? And I know the first answer is going to be because attorneys cost. Well, now you spend more. You've lost
Right.
more than what it would have cost you. You follow what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
you definitely got to be more careful about that. And as we keep it moving, talking about disadvantages and all that, we know about our sister. Her name is Simone Biles. She is phenomenal. Uh, she's one of a kind. We're probably not going to ever see another her in our lifetime. She's pulling off all type of gymnastic moves and routines that the average gymnast would not do. And again, thank everybody for tuning in. We just finished talking about the gentleman up in Lubbock, Texas, who's a business owner who left a comment, a negative comment on a business in which he was doing business with, who then in return filed a lawsuit against him and won by default. And then before that, we jumped into Texas gun law, in which now the governor is poised to set or put into place a law which will allow Texans to carry handguns without a license. But back to Miss Simone Biles. Um, she recently, if you guys on social media, or maybe you've been under a rock, she literally just did I don't even what they call it in gymnastics, but she did a routine. I guess that's what we're gonna call it because I'm not a gymnast. I don't know what they call it. But she did a routine that has never been performed in any competition. Or the last person who done it was the only person to do it. And for you guys, what I do know is anytime a gymnast do a routine and pull off a new routine, it is named after them. Miss Simone has several routines that are named after her. But over this past week, there was a video that circulated of her doing this. Um, it is called, and I want to make sure I get this right. It's called the Yurka Chico. Listen, I'm gonna probably mess this name up, but it's called the Yorking Chico double pipe. And this was captured on video. It says the Olympic gold medalist is widely recognized as the greatest gymnast in the world, and her historic delivery of yet a never been done before move shows us the reputation is well earned. Now, again, if you follow her, you look her up. She did this first in practice, right before a competition. She went on to perform this routine or this double pike in competition. I watched her in competition. Um, it wasn't as good as she did in practice, which is the video that's circulating right now on Twitter and across the world. However, she pulled it off. But what we want to jump into is, and the question that was raised in this article is, why is Simone Biles' greatness being penalized? The article basically says every time that she does a new routine or something that is complicated for other women, she is being penalized because they are rating her routine lower than what it's supposed to be. In other words, what this young lady's routine value is supposed to be is undervalued every time she does a routine. And the question is it fair or foul? And the reason why we're asking this question and talk about it, because again, as African Americans and people, we always see where, as they say, we're fighting with one hand tied around us. And Miss Simone is no different. She pulls off this routine, and the judges basically undervalued her routine. And so now, again, the world is watching and they're saying, wait a minute, why is she being penalized for doing routines in which she's capable of doing? And the argument is, and I'm going to turn over to Diamond, the argument is that because the things that she's doing is so impossible, they're rating it low because other women who try it or try it. Okay, let me rephrase that. How can I put this? She's being rated so low because the judges feel that if other women do it, it will be a danger to their health. How about that? That's basically the best way to do it. So, Diamond, after reading the article, what are your thoughts about how she's being treated as a black gymnast? And then my next question behind that is, if it was another person of another race, be it white, Asian, European, Australian, would they be treated the same way if they would be pulling out these stunts?
Absolutely no, they would not be treated the same way. She is being treated unfairly because she can do something that no one else can do. And the fact that the judges even admitted that they undervalue her in scoring because she does things that no other gymnast will be able to do or train to do, somebody should stand up and be saying something to them, because guess what? Michael Phelps, the Caucasian white male swimmer, has done things that no other swimmer can do, and he has not been penalized for it. In fact, he's glorified, he's put on a pedestal for it. He has won several Olympic medals and is known as one of the greatest male swimmers of all time. Because guess what? This same special athletic ability and talent that Simone has in gymnastics, he has it in swimming. His body makeup, his proportion, and all of that. They've examined and talked about all of that and even compared that, but he is still not undervalued when it comes to his scores and his ratings like Simone has been. And this is not the first time they've done it. It's actually
Right.
happening to her quite often. I actually applaud her because not one time has she stopped being Simone. Not one time has she stopped still reaching to do those difficult techniques and routines to maintain herself. It is absolutely unfair that she's being punished for her willingness to go the extra mile, for
Mm-hmm.
her willingness to practice those. It, whether it's risky or not, we all have choices to make. Even as an entrepreneur, I take risks every day when I decide to try a new product or a new brand or whatever. And whatever my level of comfortability is, that's how many risks I'm going to take. When I'm in stock, because I do the stock market, whatever my level of comfortability is, that's what risk I'm going to take. I'm not going to go past what I'm comfortable with. So because she's an overachiever that continues to push herself to new limits and new heights untried, she should not be punished for it. And we definitely know that if she was any other race besides an African American, they would be bowing down to her and saying, "Oh, that's awesome." But because she happens to be of the African American race, then again, she's being penalized for her greatness that is within her.
Right. And like I said, matter of fact, it says that the rationale for this scoring has often been that there are safety risks for other gymnasts who aren't able to compete in the moves that Biles is. If her moves are rewarded with high scores and other gymnasts are then motivated to try them. So let's think about that. So their rationale is that if we give her the max of every difficult um, routine she executes, then it's going to motivate other women to now try those routines. Now, I don't know what sense they're making on what planet it makes sense on, because it doesn't make sense at all. So you're going to rate her lower to what, discourage other women from not trying it? Because that's basically what you're saying. We're rating
Right.
it so low so that other women won't then try to do the routine. No, give her exactly what it is worth. If it's already an 8 point whatever it may be, hell, go above and beyond, because we already know if she completed and do it, what you gonna do? She gonna lose to somebody who did something in which she already knows how to do. And so at the end of the day, you're right. And the comparison that they're using is Michael Phelps. I love swimming. I watched this dude several times. Matter of fact, I shout out and applaud him for his voice in mental health. Because if you really
Right.
follow this guy, you also know he also talks about mental health a lot. And so
Right.
he's praised as a white guy in swimming for being exceptional in swimming, whereas Simone Biles is being taking a hit for being exceptional as well. And I hate to say this, but I mean I think you're right. If it was another young lady that more than likely they wanted, who was of a lighter skin tone, to perform these routines and to hit them and land them, stick them, whatever the case may be, there's no doubt that the world will be, or the not the world, but the judges will give her a higher rating. You get what I'm saying? And if you've been watching, man, listen, I'm a sports dude. Now I might not watch it all the time, but what I do know is I watch enough sports to know that African American women are hitting the gymnast the becoming more gymnasts, or they're becoming more seen. You see the videos of the young
Right.
ladies out of UCLA, LSU. There are a lot of black women who are gymnasts, and for
Yes.
years, especially in the USA, you might just find maybe one on the U.S. Olympic team. We can go back to Gabby Douglas. Um, what's her name? Dawn. I forgot her name. Dominique Dawes. I mean, we can name the black gymnasts who've been out there, but now
Right.
they are starting to dominate gymnastics. Your leader is no more a white young lady with blonde hair, or brunette hair, or dark brown hair. Now it's a black woman and black women in general who now make up the U.S. Olympic team. And so when I think because of that, judges who, again, like police and any person in power and position, decide to say, you know what, we go show her. We go knock that arrogance down a little bit. Not that it probably actually mess with her, but we
Right.
want to show you we're still in power to judge what she does, and we don't really see it as phenomenal. That's how I view it. What about you? Is that how you see it?
I never took it to that extreme. I can totally see how you got there. I never took it to that point of analyzing and thinking it, because at the end result, I got what we always see is that she's an African American that they did not want to see be in that power in that particular field, like you said, because it's always been a lighter skinned person who's dominated in gymnastics. And we do have more and more African Americans that you're starting to see. I actually have a soror, her daughter's on the gymnastic team in Baylor. And they just won the championship. So I definitely can see where you analyze that and got all of that from it. Now that you mentioned it, it's like, yeah. I mean, I didn't take it that deep, but I had the same thought process of, if she wasn't an African American, this wouldn't even be an issue. We would see headlines all, oh, she just did it again. Oh, look
Right.
at this move she made. Whereas you're giving her, come on, a 6.6, when we know that, from even as a child, I followed her and I've definitely watched the movie about her life. And even as a kid coming into this arena, she always did the unexpected. That's who she is. That was her nature. That was her as even a child. As she slowly started getting into gymnastics, that was one of the reasons they kept pushing her to be in it. Was they saw the potential, they saw the greatness. But then she
Hmm.
gets to this main stage. She's on the world stage, and you still have these, for lack of better wording, these people that are totally prejudiced against the darker skinned American that does not want to see them reach the full potential or doesn't want them to have the title of dominating this era. But at the end of the day, no matter how they try to cover it or how they try to hide it, it's already known that she is the best in the world when it comes to gymnastics. She continues to produce moves that no other women have even thought about attempting or trying. And honestly, that's not a good excuse. You do it so nobody else will try it. Come on. So
Right.
that means if I make 100 on this test, you're not gonna give me 100 because you don't want no one else to try to get 100, and 100 might not be their potential. Because that's what that sounds like to me as a school teacher. So I graded your test, you made 100, but you know what? I'm gonna give you a 50 because can't nobody else get 100. Come on now, really? Where they do
Right.
that? That's just ludicrous.
Yeah, and that's basically what it sounds like. I mean, it's instead of rewarding the greatness, you want to penalize her for being great. And I know a lot of times I hear it all the time, everything is not black and white, and I'm going to continue to say I beg to differ. This country was based on color. This
Yes,
country has operated on color. We're in the position we're in because of color. And even in sports, even in gymnastics, which uh, white women, European, Korean women, you name it, Russian women have dominated. Now this is being dominated by women of color. Again, and I love it. However, somebody has to stand up. Somebody has to say, "Hey, you know what? This is wrong." And I love how, in spite of all of it, she decides and she chooses to still stay positive. She still continues to be the best her. And so again, if you don't take nothing else from her story or just in general, when you are faced with difficulties, let's say anything, keep a smile on your face, stay persistent, and continue to strive to be great. And at the end of the day, it's going to all work itself out because ultimately, at this last competition, she still walked away as the winner. Listen, want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you missed the first part of the show, again, we got to talking about Texas' new bill that's going to be put into place, where men and women who are over the age of 21 will be able to carry a handgun without a license. Then we also talked about the gentleman, the business owner up there in Lubbock, Texas, old country ass Lubbock, Texas. Lord, I haven't been to Lubbock, Texas in a while. But in any case, he sues a company in which he was paying for a service for, left a negative review, was asked to remove it, didn't remove it. The company did in return, sues them, and they win by default. Again, if you don't learn nothing else when it comes to the legal system, make sure you are well represented. Make sure you know your court date because in the court of law, there is a such thing as a default. And he's finding out the hard way. And lastly, Simone Biles, even in the face of uh, the low scores in which she continues to get for routines in which no other women are trying in the world, she still decides to stay with it. Because she could just be a regular gymnast, but she chooses to go above and beyond, as Diamond said, and to continue to set the bar high for all gymnasts. As I close, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to today's show. Please make sure you go to Facebook, like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Shout out to our watchers and viewers on YouTube as well as Twitter. Diamond, please let everybody know where they can find you.
This is Diamond, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Yolanda Diamond Jones, or you can hit up my business page where I make custom personalized t-shirts, cups, tumblers, keychains, buttons, you name it, I'll pretty much customize it at YOLO Expressions on both Facebook and Instagram.
Already, listen, we have a great show lined up for you guys. Next Sunday, we will have uh, the cast or some of the cast from a movie called Heavy. We'll play the preview as well. So we're definitely looking forward to that show next Sunday. So please make sure you tuned in and let's support um, this producer as well as the actors and actresses who have created this movie. Until next Sunday, man, we're out of here.